The alarm went off at 3:47 a.m. again. I ran down the ICU corridor, my heart pounding against my ribs. Room 12. The same room. The same baby. The same impossible pattern that was driving me to the edge of everything I thought I knew about medicine. His name was Daniel, 6 months old. And every time his mother left the room, he stopped breathing. Not slowly, not gradually, immediately. As if an invisible switch had been flipped inside his tiny body. I've seen premature babies fight for every breath. I've held infants through seizures, through heart defects, through conditions so rare they don't even have names yet. But I had never seen anything like this. Daniel had been with us for 11 days. 11 days of tests, scans, monitors, specialists. Every single exam came back normal. His lungs were perfect. His heart was strong. His neurological function showed no abnormalities. There was no infection, no blockage, no syndrome, no genetic disorder. Medically speaking, there was absolutely no reason for him to stop breathing. But he did, like clockwork. His mother, Sarah, was exhausted. Dark circles framed her eyes and her hands trembled every time she reached for him. She was 32, a first-time mother, and she hadn't left the hospital since the day they arrived. "I can't leave him, doctor," she whispered to me one evening. "Every time I do, he—" Her voice cracked. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. We had all seen it. The nurses started calling it the pattern. Sarah would step out to get coffee, to use the bathroom, sometimes just to stand in the hallway and breathe. Within 60 seconds, Daniel's oxygen saturation would drop. His lips would turn pale, his small chest would stop moving, and then, the alarm. Every single time. The moment Sarah returned and touched him, he would gasp, a sharp, desperate inhale, like someone pulled from deep water. His numbers would stabilize. His color would return. He would look at her with those wide, dark eyes, and it was as if nothing had ever been wrong. It was medically impossible. But it kept happening. On the 7th night, I sat in my office staring at his chart, pages and pages of normal results. Perfect vitals when his mother was present, crisis after crisis when she wasn't. I called in a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, a neurologist. They all left confused, some even frustrated. One of them suggested it was coincidence. Another hinted at Munchausen by proxy, that maybe Sarah was somehow causing it. But I watched her. I watched the terror in her eyes every time the alarm sounded. I watched her collapse into the chair, sobbing, begging us to find an answer. This wasn't manipulation. This was a mother being torn apart. On the 9th day, I did something unconventional. I asked for a psychiatric consult, not for Daniel, but for Sarah. Dr. Elena Vasquez came that afternoon. She was a trauma specialist, someone who understood the hidden wounds people carry. She didn't go into the room right away. Instead, she stood outside with me, watching through the glass. "Tell me what you see," she said quietly. I described the pattern, the breathing, the alarm, the impossible consistency of it all. She nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Sarah. "And what do you see in her?" she asked. I paused. Fear, exhaustion, desperation. "Look deeper," Dr. Vasquez said. "Look at how she holds him." I watched. Sarah's grip on Daniel was tight, too tight. Her body was rigid, even when he was calm. She rocked him constantly, even when he was asleep. Her eyes darted toward the door every few seconds, as if expecting something terrible to walk through it. "She's terrified," I said. "Not just of losing him. She's terrified of being away from him." Dr. Vasquez nodded. "That's not just fear, doctor. That's trauma." Over the next 2 days, Dr. Vasquez spent hours with Sarah. Slowly, gently, she began to uncover a story that Sarah had never told anyone. Not her husband. Not her family. Not even herself. Not fully. When Sarah was 4 years old, her mother left her at a neighbor's house and never came back. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. Sarah spent the next 2 years being passed between relatives who didn't want her, each one eventually sending her somewhere else. By the time she was placed in foster care, she had learned a singular, devastating truth. When people leave, they don't come back. She grew up. She built a life. She fell in love, got married, tried to move forward. But when Daniel was born, something inside her shattered. Every time she looked at him, she saw herself, small, vulnerable, waiting for someone who would never return. And so, unconsciously, she held on, too tightly, too desperately. Her body was in a constant state of panic, flooding with stress hormones every time she even thought about leaving his side. And Daniel, in his tiny, developing nervous system, was absorbing it all. Dr. Vasquez explained it to me in terms I had never connected before. Infants regulate their breathing, their heart rate, their entire nervous system through their primary caregiver, she said. It's called co-regulation. When a mother is calm, the baby is calm. But when a mother is in a state of chronic panic, the baby's system can become dependent on that heightened state. When she leaves, his nervous system doesn't know how to function independently. It shuts down. It wasn't a disease. It wasn't a disorder. It was attachment. Deep, primal, and so powerful it was affecting his ability to breathe. Trauma therapy. Breathing exercises. Slowly helping her understand that leaving Daniel for a few minutes didn't mean abandoning him. That he was safe. That she was safe. We started small. Sarah would step just outside the door, still visible through the glass. Then, down the hall. Then to the cafeteria. Each time, a nurse stayed with Daniel, speaking softly, holding him gently. And slowly, painfully slowly, the pattern began to break. The first time Sarah left the room for 10 minutes and Daniel kept breathing, she cried so hard she could barely stand. It wasn't just relief, it was release. Release of years of fear she had carried in her bones. By day 14, Daniel was stable. By day 16, Sarah could leave for an hour without incident. By day 18, we discharged them. I walked them to the hospital entrance, watching Sarah carry Daniel in her arms. Still protective, still loving, but different now, lighter. She looked back at me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I smiled. "You did the hardest part. You faced what you'd been running from your whole life." As they walked out into the sunlight, I stood there thinking about everything medicine teaches us and everything it doesn't. We learn to read scans, to interpret tests, to trust the data. But sometimes, the most critical diagnosis has nothing to do with the body. It has to do with the heart, with the wounds we carry, with the love that can heal or hurt, depending on how we hold it. Daniel didn't need a ventilator. He needed his mother to breathe freely so that he could too. And Sarah didn't need to be a perfect mother. She just needed to believe that love didn't require her to never let go. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is learning to release your grip, just enough to let the ones you love learn to breathe on their own. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt the weight of invisible wounds or seen love become fear, subscribe and join us. Every heartbeat here tells a story about life, connection, and the quiet courage it takes to heal. Share your thoughts below. Maybe your story is the next one we'll tell. Until then, keep listening, not just to the monitors, but to the silence between the beats.